Hello folks, here I go again. This is the fourth and the final part of my adventure in Himalayas, on the slopes of Mount Everest. In the previous part I managed to climb from the base camp through the terrible Khumbu Icefall to the Camp 3 at an altitude of 7,100 meters. There I spent the night and tried to continue ascent as high as possible without usage of bottled oxygen. But it was so windy and cold that I decided to go back. Also, I decided that it would be too risky to climb without oxygen. For more details on this decision, please watch the previous episode. Link in the description. By the way, at the end of this episode I gonna share exciting news, so stay tuned. But nevertheless, after the attempt, I went back to the base camp to rest before the final summit push. While I was on climbing high in the mountains, somewhere in the middle of Indian Ocean, huge storm formed and moved to our direction. It leads to super strong wind in the summit and make it impossible even to try climbing. So all expeditions were forced to wait until the next good weather window, at least few days without winds. And this waiting extended for weeks. Each day we checked weather forecast and they promised that in 5 days the weather will be good enough to climb. But each day the storm was shifting for the later dates. It was so hard to wait in the base camp without any movement, just watching snowflakes above summits, clear sign of strong winds. And finally, forecast promised the next window. We decided to try and go up. As usual, every morning starts at the most dangerous section, Khumbu Icefall. Now it is even more dangerous. As summer is coming, the average temperature rises and ice become less stable. The terrain and the trail are completely unrecognizable. The ice fall changed dramatically. Also, this time the weather is not so pleasant. Cloudy with cold wind and snow. Some new huge crevasses to cross, new terrifying seracs hanging above your head. After Khumbu Icefall, it doesn't get any better. Very strong wind, blizzard and cold. The way between Camp 1 and Camp 2 this time is very difficult. After a few hours of struggle, I reached Camp 2 at an altitude of 6,400 meters. Here is the very cold today. Weather forecast changes again. Now it says that next couple of days there will be snowfall and very strong wind. So we have to stay in Camp 2 and wait for a few more days. During these days the wind was so strong that it damaged some tents. The worst is waiting again. We stayed there for 3 days. Finally, on the 4th day morning, the weather becomes sunny with a little wind. But the new problem. After all those days and snowfalls, there is a lot of snow on the slopes and high risk of avalanches. During the day, there are few huge avalanches from surrounding mountains. Fortunately, none of them hit our camp. With the hope for the better, we are going to move to the Camp 3 tomorrow. Tonight our camp was hit by huge avalanche. Few tents are completely destroyed. Some are heavily damaged. Fortunately, none is hurt. Guys from the destroyed tents managed to move to other tents right after. To be honest, I was sleeping and missed the whole action. Anyway, our plan is to climb today to the third camp. So right after breakfast, we left the camp 2 to the Lodze Wall direction. The weather is calm and the sun is super hot. In about an hour, as I left the camp, I'm at the base of the steep section of the way to Camp 3, the Lodze Wall. In the middle of this slope, Camp 3 is pitched at the altitude of 7,100 meters. But first, at the very bottom, you have to cross almost vertical ice serac hanging above huge crevasses. The trail is very exposed. If you fall, you die. After that, there is a long steep slope without any place to rest. And to make it even more exciting, there are rolling, but rather flying stones. One of them flew in just 1 meter of my head. At least some attraction. After this long and interesting section, I reached the beginning of the camp. Here, after days of stormy winds, you can see many destroyed tents. The whole camp must be repitched almost from the scratch.
Некоторые, причем совсем. Разбросанные вещи, остатки былой роскоши.
This time I'm not alone here, but with the whole team. And we are not the only team here. Now is the last chance to get the summit this season. Today is May 30. Usually by this date all expeditions are finished. This year we are so late because of the weather. It is unstable and unpredictable. So all climbers who didn't manage to get the summit are gathered here for the final push. Whether you succeed or fail, there is no time to another try. Monsoon is coming with new storms and snowfalls. After a night in Camp 3, I am moving to Camp 4. Last time I tried to do it without supplemental oxygen, but this time I'm using it to increase the chances to summit. What I can say, with the oxygen it is much easier to walk here. Soon I reach the point where I was dying last time. So far so good, continuous ascent. The next part is the less steep section along the huge couloir. Sometimes I even manage to overtake other climbers. At the top of this couloir there is a famous yellow band of Everest, the section of rock, probably limestone, that has yellowish color. This rocky part is something new on the way. Before, starting from the base camp, there was only ice and snow. Yellow band has one steep section, almost vertical, that require real climbing. But it is just a few meters. After yellow band, there is a snow section again. It leads towards the South Col, where Mount Everest Camp 4 is located. Do you remember Everest movie? The main rescue action was around this camp. But here I have to pause and tell you one secret. I'm not going to climb Everest. Here, in the middle of the way between Yellow Band and South Col, at the altitude of 7,700, another camp is located. This is starting point for the road to Mount Lhotse summit. This is the fourth highest mountain in the world, with an altitude of 8,656 meters. So this is my goal. It is much less famous summit despite its significant height. You may ask me, why did you choose Lhotse, not Everest? The answer is simple. Everest is much more expensive. The whole expedition to Mount Everest costs at least 50,000 US dollars. And Mount Lhotse expedition cost about 16,000, so 3 times less. So this is why. I simply do not have 50k to spend. Crazy money. Anyway, we continue. Our Sherpas managed to dig out tents and other camping stuff that was carried here before, from the fresh snow. This is an extremely unpleasant place. Nothing is here. Nowhere to hide from the wind, just a steep snow slope. There is nothing to do here. So right after Sherpas managed to pitch 2 tents, one for us, 3 climbers, and one for them, 3 Sherpas, we just hide inside tents to prepare everything for tonight's summit push. Boil some hot water for thermoses, some snacks and oxygen. Tonight, at about midnight, we are going to start. You may wonder why at midnight, not in the morning. This is because you have to be on the top at sunrise to be able to go back to the camp before afternoon. Because afternoon the weather can change dramatically. Do you remember Everest movie? They were too late and got in storm. We gonna avoid such situation. And because the way to the summit may take 7 to 8 hours, we have to start at midnight. On Everest, sometimes the starting time is at 10 p.m. Just before midnight, we started to dress up for the summit push. Even that easy task is extremely difficult at this altitude. Each move requires all of your willpower. It is much easier just to retreat and decide to go down than continue. I get out of the tent and started to slowly walk toward the summit. First, you continue along the way to South Col for a few hundred meters, but then ropes to the Lhotse leads you to opposite direction. Nothing interesting is around, just a spot of snow in the light of your headlamp and endless rows. On the left, I can see the queue of tiny lights. Those are climbers on the way to Mount Everest summit. After a few hours, we reach the bottom part of the couloir that leads almost to the summit of Mount Lhotse. And here, catastrophic view stopped us. The whole road was destroyed by a huge avalanche. The ropes were covered with an enormous layer of snow that became hard as a rock. So there is no possibility to recover that. And without ropes you cannot continue climbing in the complete darkness, even if you do not consider the chances of new avalanche. So the only possible way is to go back. You may ask, why don't you wait until dawn to try with daylight? There are few reasons. Now there is a couple of hours till sunrise, so we have to wait all that time in a freezing wind with temperature about minus 20 degrees Celsius, with no place to hide from the wind, without a movement. It is extremely bad scenario. Most probably you get a frostbite. And even if no, you consume a bottle oxygen, which is limited. So after there will be not enough oxygen to reach the summit and to go back. We could go back to the camp and wait there. But this is a few hours down and then few hours back up. With limited oxygen, not an option. So there was no way to continue climbing safely, and we made the only possible decision: go back without summit. So here on the altitude of about 8,100 meters, my climbing attempt ended. And on the way to Everest summit, the line of lights was already halfway up to the summit. The difference here is because the road to Mount Everest summit is by the top of the sharp rocky ridge, where almost no snow can resist the wind. And the way to Lhotse summit is by deep couloir, where all the snow is accumulating. Knowing all that, including the price, what would you choose to climb, Mount Everest or Mount Lhotse? Would you continue climbing in these circumstances? Did I make the right choice? Share your opinion in the comments. I'm really interested. What do you think? So, back to the topic. We went back to the camp for... I took some rest until sunrise. After, we packed all our things and started to descend. To the Camp 3, then Camp 2, and further down. Between Camp 2 and Camp 1, a huge avalanche destroyed a part of the trail. Nothing special, just continue. At the Khumbu glacier, when I was crossing a crevasse, a huge chunk of ice just crashed under me. So I fell into crevasse. Nothing special, just climb out of it, breathe a bit and continue. Fortunately, I didn't fall too deep, just a few meters. And finally, at sunset, I'm at the base camp. Now I can say that I survived. Now the long way back home is ahead of me. But this is not so interesting. What is interesting is the news that I promised at the very beginning. So here it is. Less than in 1 month I am leaving for the next expedition to the Himalayas, to try once again. This time this is a different mountain, more challenging. I am so excited. New awesome adventures and of course videos are coming. So do not forget to subscribe if you do not want to miss that. Thank you for watching till this point. See you later.